Okay, so on in the next series, a section in MyStar. I'll probably cover more than one because these are pretty simple. So for the next couple, okay. So we've already done. Actually, no. Maybe I'll do one at a time. I thought it was farther along than I thought. Okay, we just did the appearance editor sliders for female and male. Male is exactly the same as female, except for you're using a male avatar. You click on the male. Okay, so animation and poses. Okay, so that's the next one here. Okay, animation and poses. I'm going to tear it off here. And it has a play pause button at the top. Right now there's really no animations. Well, it'll just play sort of a random thing. Anyway, so if you want to do male walk, you click on male walk and then you click the pause play and or you can come down here and click the play button. It's basically the same thing, and that rewinds it to the beginning. Female walk, that's the female walk. If we pause it and do the male walk again, you can see there's some slight changes. Female walk, male walk. You can see there's a difference. It's always a good idea to stop between plays and play and pause. You don't have to, but so that's the run. Ooh, what's going on with her leg? That looks pretty weird. Okay, Muscle Beach. These are so that when you're rigging your mesh clothing, you can have play these different animations and see where there's some poke through. Probably the male and female walk are probably going to do a lot better. But yeah, you have a bunch to choose from. See what it looks like in the seated position. That's just regular set, female set. Appearance editor spin. Typing, free fall. This might be good if you want to see some extreme movements to see how the poke through is. Idle stand one. Idle stand two. Same thing. Okay, so these are the poses that are built in. There's the T pose, and here's an A pose, and here's an idle pose. Idle pose is kind of like the idle stand, just paused, like that, so that you don't have to, but like I said, there's the A pose or the T pose. Sometimes you have to click on these twice in order to get them to work for some reason. Okay, so let's see, custom bind pose. This is to create a custom bind pose. So let's say we'll go to we'll turn on. I got to turn on the skeleton. And so say you want to do an A pose, but you don't want the legs to stick out. So what you could do is you can come in here and you could rotate, say, the arm down, let's say go to channel box, let's say -45 degrees. Okay, and then you say you want to do this one, you're going to want to rotate this one, and if one's negative, the other one's positive, because it's the left and right side. Okay, so say you want this as the bind pose instead of the T pose. All you have to do is rotate the bones to how you want them, and then click Create Bind Pose. Now, when you come in here to MyStar and click Go to Bind Pose, it goes to that pose. That's now the bind pose. So if you had, say you were importing a mesh that was, you had, say you rigged say you made you created your clothes in Blender. This is a very common scenario, because some people, you know, they're new to Maya, but they've known Blender for a while, and so they've made their clothes in Blender, or they bought their clothes full perm with OBJ files from the marketplace, and they want to re-rig it for fitted mesh or something, and it was originally created to fit an avatar that was in the A pose instead of the T pose. So what you would do is you would rotate the bones so that it was in the correct rotation, and then you would do your create bind pose, and now you could rig the other clothes that were originally created in this pose. You could rig it to the skeleton. Okay, and then if you wanted to make it so that it fits a T pose, because if you wanted to make it to fit the T pose for some reason, after rigging it to the A pose or to the arms like this, the mesh clothing, you could set this back to 0 and this one back to 0, and then create a bind pose again. Now the mesh clothing, if you unrigged it or detached the skin, would pop back down to the A pose. You know, the arms going down to the side. So what you would do is, while it was in the T pose, you would select your mesh clothing and you would duplicate it. You know, you would duplicate it, and that would set the mesh clothing or the mesh, whatever it is, in that T pose position. You know, you're basically using the bones to deform the clothes to fit the T pose at that point, if you wanted to. I'm sure there's scenarios out there which you might want to do that. So say you were doing a horse, and you had a horse mesh that you bought, and you wanted for some reason to get it into the T pose. You know, horses don't normally stand in the T pose, but say for some reason you wanted to, you would do exactly what I just showed you, and then where you move, you rotate the bones to fit the mesh, and then you would rig it to the mesh, to the skeleton, and then you would go into the T pose. You know, see, now for some reason it won't do it. A pose. I'm surprised why it's not doing the A pose now. See, this is what I mean. Sometimes these work, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they do. This is unusual. Normally it would have gone to the T pose. I've never had it not after clicking this a couple of times. Don't you just love it when a little bug will pop up or something weird will pop up? Oh, there it goes. Okay. That was weird. I guess I had to go into the, and then it would go to the T pose. Anyway, so you'd go to the T pose, and then you would duplicate the horse in the T pose stance, and then you would have a horse in the T pose if you needed for some reason that. I've heard of some scenarios that people would do that. Okay, so that is the animations section. I guess maybe we're only 9 minutes into it. Yeah, I'm going to stop the video here and I'll continue on in the next video.